Welcome to episode 39 of the Coast AFL Podcast for Nick and Players. This week we cover the big news that came out during the last 7 days, being John Longmire resigning from the Sydney Swans, Brad Crouch retiring due to an unfortunate injury he suffered last season, St. Kilda revealing their 2025 Guernseys, the AFLW All Australian, and the AFLW Grand Final, and Best on Ground as well. So let's jump straight into it. How are you doing, Mr. Syrick?
Not too bad, not too bad. It was the grand final for a couple of women's sports this week. I managed to catch both of them. Obviously, AFLW Grand Final. I pretty much got home from my normal visit to Freo. I missed the start of it. I'm very ashamed to say that when I was talking about tonight day with my mum, I got a bit distracted by the Cutting the Cake show.
Oh, yeah.
Is it cake or is it not cake? So then I was like, oh crap. And then I got there. It was like a couple of minutes in. And yeah, as I said, North Melbourne were pretty much starting their dominance straight away. So I didn't miss too much. Watched also a bit of the WBBL finals. Saw the Melbourne Renegades get that. So, I mean, as much as I want the Perth Scorchers to make it, at least it wasn't a New South Wales team.
Amen to that.
It's the only time I might cheer for a Victorian side is when it's the cricket. But...
As for me, I finished up my Movember campaign. Let me just show the YouTube video here. As you can see, whilst it still technically says that it is still going on, there is technically 2 days left in the Movember sort of campaign as a whole, like across the entire site. My personal end is finished. We raised $1,285, and as you can see by the face cam, I shaved off the stash. I don't like it. I'm gonna regrow it. It's pretty much straight after summer, because it just gets too hot at work. So that's why I'm just gonna leave it as is for now. But again, thank you all so incredibly much for donating and supporting the campaign. It goes towards men's mental health, prostate cancer, and testicular cancer awareness and research and funding. So that's incredible work. Thank you all so much. In terms of the rest of the week for me, just the same old. I was involved in another Overwatch production yesterday, and that one was also for charity. That was to support cancer research through Game on Cancer. We raised, I think, $1,500, which was also another incredible amount of money. So thank you all so much for supporting us there. And then the other sort of quote unquote charity thing that I've been doing, the Mission to Seafarers sea shanties that I do every Thursday night. Our last session is this Thursday, and it's going to be a big one. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Otherwise, it's just work, and more work. But
yeah,
world goes round, right?
World goes round, does it indeed?
Amen. So let's jump into the big headlining news of the past 7 days, and that is John Longmire stepping away as Sydney Swans head coach after almost 20 years? 14 seasons. There we go. 14 seasons.
Yeah, 14 seasons. It was 2000 and I want to say 9. And yes, because
math would be 2009.
2010, yes. Yeah. Well, 2000, yeah.
End of 2009.
At the end of 2009.
Yeah. No one really saw it coming. I was at work and I just looked at my phone and I saw it and I was like, the hell?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's sort of one of those things where...
I mean, not that I'm super surprised about it, but
it's not surprising, but at the end of obviously a grand final loss, it's not too many times you see a club changeover happening. But that's always the difficult thing. It was always going to be a handover to Dean Cox.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that was a surprise to anyone.
No, especially when it kind of was obvious that he wasn't going for the West Coast job at all.
Exactly. So obviously it seems like Longmire, even last year, thought that they may have, that he may be a bit 50-50 to continue on. Basically he was like, yeah, we'll continue on for another year. And, again, certainly a still successful campaign. Clearly didn't get the grand final result. Obviously, it's a bit harsh to have your final game at the Sydney Swans be a 60-point loss. especially in a grand final.
Mm.
As I think he was he probably 14 years in club is very hard to maintain. Probably get a bit tired. So yeah, he probably want a bit of breath of fresh air. I probably think that there was a chance that he was going to go. I think it was like 2020, 2021 when Sydney finished bottom four for a year. Um, it was just a very one-off bad year. I thought maybe they would change coach. As I said, that handoff was already talking to take place at that time.
Mhm.
Didn't happen. And it just shows what good of a coach he is. He got him back into the finals. I know they still had a lot of talent, but it was still an effort to do. And yeah, finishes with a premiership coach under his belt. A premiership coaching coaching premiership under his belt.
Yes. Words are
As
hard, I
well.
know.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's one grand final win and a premiership and 4 grand final appearances total, but pretty much finals campaign almost every single year, which is extremely impressive and extremely consistent.
yeah, exactly. And the overall record: 333 games, 208 wins, 112 losses, and 3 draws, which is a percentage of basically 63. Yeah, as I said, Sydney's been one of the best sides for the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a ladder. I think they were either second or third overall.
Sorry,
I think it was
5 grand final appearances total, 1 being a win, 4 being losses.
yeah. So that's sort of the other side. And I think you might be scrolling through the article, but the 63 in terms of best winning percentages for coaches, minimum 150 games, that puts him in, what is that, 6th spot under Chris Scott with the most, Dick Reynolds, Jock McHale, Frank Checker Hughes, and Tom Hafey. And I'd honestly not heard of Frank Checker Hughes before.
No,
So that's
names.
interesting.
I think the nickname is familiar to me, but I've never really figured out who it linked to.
Yeah.
Um,
Anyway,
but yeah, no, that's very
that,
impressive, and on top of the fact that you mentioned Chris Scott in that list, he's still coaching. Like he can
yeah,
only still go
exactly.
up or down on that list overall.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah. So I bet hopefully for him he stays on. I see him as a sort
Hopefully
of
for
coach that will
Geelong,
just
because I
retire
mean
after not too long.
Geelong's making it work with him as I have every year so far. So
Yeah. Honestly, it takes a lot of temperament to be a coach. Like it's a lot of stress year in, year out. I'm like amazed anyone can go 10 consecutive years as a coach, just without taking a break. So yeah, I think this will be good for Force. As you can imagine, I don't think it will be his last stint as a coach. There
no,
is a certain startup club that will be chucking a bit of money his way. I would
absolutely.
imagine. Whether he takes it or not, I'm not too sure. He'll at least get 1 year off at the very least.
Yes,
I'm
yeah,
not sure when
he'll
they
take
will.
2025 as a break probably, and then yeah, who knows? Maybe we'll get some more news out of him towards like July, August, as to see what he wants to do.
Yeah, but I think we've already mentioned the new coach ends up being Dean Cox, former West Coast ruckman for people young like Blaze who might not remember
I
him.
remember Dean
Um,
Cox. I'm not that young.
I know, I
I
know.
may look that young
Uh,
now, but
he retired fairly late. It was like 2014.
yeah, he retired
Yeah,
very, very, very late.
yeah,
He was like
um,
he was pushing close to mid 30s, I think, when he retired.
yeah. Because he still had that tandem with Nick Nat Newey, who was a very good ruckman, but a bit of a prospect himself.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, project at that time
Project.
still. He was always a bit reduced minute sort of player.
Injury
So
prone at the time.
yeah, exactly. So yeah. Yeah, Dean Cox, he's been at the helm a long time. It's pretty much a pretty standard thing, handover. They've got pretty good culture in terms of, what having a maintained success. So he'll know what the programs are meant to look at. Like maybe he'll get some new ideas as well. Every coach needs a bit of uniqueness to them.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what his game
And there's a fair
style leads
chance,
towards.
like most new head coaches, that he might get like 1 or 2 new assistant coaches in, either from other clubs or just like bring them up from like VFL or something like that. just again, fresh ideas, fresh faces.
Yeah, as I said, we'll see. I'm not sure when their coaching things have to be locked in, but I imagine you're still able to do it.
Yeah, I think you're able to do it at least until the new year, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, they'll figure it out. Or it might not even be it. I think it might just be like spots. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
as long as you have the spots filled, it doesn't really matter. Don't go over, of course.
Yeah, it's probably
But
something like that.
And yeah, as for John Longmire, I always liked him. He's like he's my sort of modern coach. You know, he's got some intensity, but he's very
He's very player driven.
nonplussed. Yeah, very player driven. Got a neat little sense of humor as well.
It's like he's very similar. I guess you could say in tandem. They're both similar to each other. Him and Chris Fagan. I feel like they coach for their players rather than coaching for the club.
I can see that. Yeah, exactly. I will say probably Horse is a bit more. I've never really seen Fagan that intense. Horse, sometimes. You always got to have a bit of, but it's always got to be.
I think Horse has probably mellowed out over the past couple of years.
Yeah, that's it. Honestly, as I said, like, especially starting off, I don't think he had the best relationship with the AFL, considering, what was it? What year was it? It was 2013, 2014, where they got banned from trading for a year, which is still like one of my absolute favorite random bits of AFL punishment. Because they were using
does ring a bell.
COLA, because they were using COLA payments to essentially entice people
that's right.
over. The famous
deals.
one being Buddy Franklin. So, but it was all fair game. There was nothing to say they couldn't. And the AFL was just like, this is an anti-football move. We're going to ban you from trading unless you have our express permission, and we're going to take all your COLA away. Which was very harsh.
It is a little bit harsh.
Given the AFL for that. I would say very. Like, this is just like ham-fisted. Like, never happened to a Victorian club, let me tell you. Cough, cough, Geelong.
Yeah. But it's like...
But yeah.
It's like, to Horse's credit, like, he's done extremely well, considering when he originally took over from Paul Roos. Like, Sydney was still, like, on that cusp, but they were also still very middle of the pack at the same time.
And let's not forget, Sydney 2012, like, in terms of premiership teams, it won't make anyone's, like, really, really strong. I'd, like, put them in like, Bulldogs tier, where there's, like, still a lot of talent, don't get me wrong.
It's like an underdog's grand final win.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you see this players, there's a lot of forgotten ones. Martin Matner, Alex Johnson, always forgot that he actually played that grand final. Craig Bird. Who else have we got? Sam Reid, if you can sort of put him in there. Lewis Roberts-Thompson, obviously. And, of course, who can forget the massive finals performance by Mitch Morton? One of his best games of his very... I wouldn't say slim. I think it did make 100 games, but definitely not the most remembered player of all time, except for that one game. So,
true.
83 games apparently.
Only
12 games for Sydney, and of course that grand final being one of them. So, a very quality coach. Prevented Hawthorn from getting a 4-peat as well, which is always nice.
You can't make it. Not allowed to let a team get a 4-peat. 3-peats are fine, but they can't get a 4-peat. No one's allowed to have that luxury just yet.
No one, exactly. So we'll see what happens. Look, I wouldn't say Brisbane. Couldn't see them getting a 4-peat. Who knows? Maybe North Melbourne W might be the next in contention, but we'll see. Again, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, with what we have to talk about coming up, there's a possible chance, but it's also like they've got shorter seasons, shorter rounds.
Yeah, exactly.
So they have a slight advantage in that case, but
Yeah, but as for now, goes off in the sunset. we don't think it'll be the last time, but like all the players that come into our game, I think a good coach deserves a bit of a farewell. We will see you not too long into the future. The media will probably want him to make some commentaries throughout the year. I wouldn't be surprised if Fox got a bit of money, considering they lost a few players to free-to-air players. Few
Commentators,
what do you call them? Commentators and all that sort of
broadcast
stuff.
talent.
So
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Which is good. I'm glad to see that splitting. Obviously, I have KO because I'm a super nerd that needs to watch all the games, but
For
I
some
do
reason, I
always
can't
like
get free to
the.
air in my apartment, so I use
Oh, really?
Foxtel. So that's why
Oh.
I watch it the way that I watch it.
But yes, it's
Not
always good to have it on free to wear.
granted, I prefer, apart from Kelly Underwood, I prefer Foxtel's commentary anyway over free to air.
Yeah. There's a couple I don't like on Fox. I must admit, I much prefer Kelly Underwood on the women's game. It's a lot more. She's very good. What do you call it? Like, player. Oh, sorry, like commentary. She gels well with other commentary people. It's just Fox is a bit more. I won't say stiff, but you know what I mean. Like, I feel like she would. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We'll talk
No,
about
it
that
doesn't
later.
matter.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our next port of call, and that is Brad Crouch retiring, unfortunately, due to a pretty nasty injury that he suffered at the start of the last season, being this 2024 season. That's just kind of plagued him throughout the entire season, and he wasn't able to just get back as much as he wanted to, which is very unfortunate because when he was fit, he was an incredible player to watch, like his brother Matt, and it's very sad to see.
Absolutely. I think the difference between Matt and Brad Crouch is Brad was always seen as a bit more of a inside hard nut, a tiny bit more contested than Matt, who in his peak was sort of seen as a very, more of a bill collector. But yeah, as I said, both had their injury worries, probably haven't got the full career that they would have wanted. But Brad Crouch was definitely a bit more at the start and at the end. He played 20 seasons for 5 out of his 9-year career, which is and averaged about 26 disposals. Very great, good tackler, sorry, as well. Good pressure as well, and just sort of just bolstered the Crows midfields. And it was still fairly important for the last couple of years for the Saints. Obviously, Saints midfields left a lot to be desired. And as I said, in terms of all the players that they've brought over, like Jones, Hanbury, well, I guess they brought in Steele. That's the other one. But yeah, as I said, Steele and Crouch have probably been the most successful without being, ridiculously good. But unfortunately,
they also had Paddy Ryder. Don't forget.
no, yeah, okay. I guess
He was
if you
also
call that.
a little injury prone when they picked him up as well.
Yeah, exactly. It was very much that shuffle of players between Port and St Kilda in that time. So yeah, exactly. I kind of knew he was never a good thing. Luckily, they have Rowan Marshall now in terms of ruckman. But yeah, unfortunately, round 1 this year against the Cats got that leg injury, and yeah, wasn't cited again this year. And yeah, as I said, from what I can tell, the leg injury he could have played on. In fact, he was picked up. We talked about last week how he was picked up in the
It was in the
what do you
rookie
call
draft.
it? The pre-season draft, rookie draft. Sorry. But yeah, so obviously he had to have a little think. Decided that the long-term implications of him getting another injury would have affected his overall well-being. So that's fair enough there. You've always got to look after yourself. Whether it's just for yourself or for your family. It's always good to take care of your body. It's always a privilege playing AFL football, but it's not be all end all. And yeah, hope he has a very, very good finish. And we did a little bit of research beforehand. I always forget to randomly put this in. But he was drafted round 1, pick 2 in the 2011 mini draft by Adelaide, and basically we had no idea what this was. I could only vaguely remember it. It's how the Suns got Jager O'Meara, but apparently it was when GWS got players that they were able to draft, but they weren't allowed to keep them. They had to trade them off to secure other talents, and so the pick that ended up being 2, which was Brad Crouch, ended up going to Adelaide. I'm assuming could only be for the who was it? He was a really good defender that went to GWS initially. It was Nathan Bock.
Possibly.
Yeah.
We're going back like 13 years here.
Yeah. I want to say it was Bock, but I could be wrong. Anyway, so yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's anything too much more I got to say about him.
Sorry, I'm actually googling the mini
Sorry,
draft just because
yeah.
I'm curious now.
All right. Yeah. So basically, in terms of his career, very high handballs, a lot of tackles, especially tackles inside 50. Apparently, in 2012, he was 4th in the total tackles inside 50, which is strange to me because he was not a known goal kicker, only 56 in his career. And yeah, he was pretty highly rated. Wasn't a rising star in his year, but had a lot of good stats amongst his first year in 2013. So yeah, I said only 14 games, but very high averages. So might have even won it if he played a full season. Who knows?
Very possible. Very, very possible.
And he did have a 43 disposal game against Blazy's boys, Richmond, in round 13, 2019, at the Adelaide Oval.
He did. He was he was best of field during that game, and I remember that game too. It was incredibly intense.
Yeah.
Because for some reason, after
honestly,
2017, we always became able to play them close at the Adelaide Oval, and I don't know why.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Dustin Martin also got 32 disposals, which is pretty rare for him, actually.
At the time, it was pretty accurate.
Yeah, still feel he was like a 25 to 28 with high impact. Like 2017, he broke 30s a lot.
That was also the era when we had brought in like Jaden Short was a full-time best 22. Liam Baker was in there, Bolton was in there. Rioli was still forward. Yeah. You know, we still had like some strong players going through that midfield.
Oh yeah. No, I was just saying. Either way, it looked like a few big games. Also a few old names here. It's funny how you only have to go a little bit back to get some names that you sort of forgot about it. Cam Ellis-Yeoman, or even Josh Jenkins. I didn't realise he would have been playing in 2019.
Yeah, Jenkins was still playing. I think he retired like 2021, possibly. I can't remember.
Yeah, I always just think of him as a 2010s player, but he did break into it. Anyway.
All right, briefly back onto Crouch. He did win the Malcolm Blight medal for the Adelaide Crows in 2019, and he finished top 10 of St Kilda's Trevor Barker medal in 2022 and 2023, and polled a career best 18 votes in the 2023 Brownlow medal.
Yes.
But yes, it's sad to see him go. We do salute him, and we hope he has an incredible retirement, fulfilling his off-field dreams is what I'm looking for.
At the very least, he gets a bit more time to pester his brother, Matt.
Very true. Who's currently still playing, so it means he has to travel to Adelaide a bit more often.
Well, it would be able to return home. I think they are Adelaide boys.
No, actually, they're from country Victoria.
Oh, yeah, Origin North Ballarat Rebels.
Yes.
Okay.
Whilst we're still on the subject of St Kilda revealed their 2025 Guernsey designs. They're not too dissimilar to what they usually wear. But I like them. I think it's a lot more fitting to the more simplified design of their logo. The candy stripe Guernsey always kind of throws me off. I don't know why, but it's just Because it feels like
Yeah,
a North
it's
Melbourne kind of jumper, but not.
yeah. I think it's just three colors. Like, there's not too many three color stripe teams. You know what I mean?
No, there
Like, you
isn't.
got Adelaide, but like there's a big crow on that one.
Yeah.
Or at least only goes through half.
Whereas, like
Um,
for St Kilda's new Clash Guernsey, it's like a shield kind of design, which is what the logo
yeah.
kind of looks like now. And then obviously they've got their
Bringing back the
traditional
emblem.
design as well. Um, so yeah, I mean I like them. Again, they're very simple and they fit more with the simplified design of their new logo. So I hope St Kilda fans are looking forward to seeing it in action on the field.
Yeah, exactly. I think the only other thing was the fact that the Clash Jersey doesn't have too many differentiated colors. So, but as I was thinking before, I think only Essendon really you would say you might need different colors for.
Probably the Suns
Um,
now that they've gone like a full red. But it depends on
I think
if they play up
still,
there, it might be the issue.
yeah,
Whereas if they play
the
down
candy
here,
stripe,
it should be fine because their main jumper
the
is more
candy
black.
stripe wouldn't be that much different from the Clash though.
No, not
Like,
really.
you
You'd
know what
probably
I
play the
mean?
home
You wouldn't.
Guernsey anyway.
Yeah, maybe. So yeah, anyway, it feels very weird with its Jersey policies or Guernsey.
Hmm.
Um, but as I said, I know a bit about that because I am a Port Adelaide supporter,
Yes, you do.
and
You're familiar
w-
with.
we we get banned from our own jerseys, so sucks to be us.
It does. All right. Next in our agenda is officially the AFLW All Australian. Um, this happened again only a week ago. I believe Monday night. It
Mhm.
was reported or like officially reported in its completion on Tuesday. Um, it was a very interesting. I wouldn't say interesting because I don't know too much about all of the players themselves. Sarek knows more about that than I do. I
Mm.
still feel like a Richmond player was robbed, but that's it remains to be seen. So if
Yeah.
you wanna go through it, go for it.
Well, at fullback, we've got Chelsea Bedell, highly seen in this final series, very talented fullback, shut down a few players. And Brenna Tarrant, I don't know much about her, but I'm pretty sure she's related to the Tarrant boys um, that used to run around at fullback.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, who was it? Chris and Robbie. That's it. Um, Halfback, we've got Tilly Lucas Rod, excellent intercept defender, great burst speed off halfback, and Emma O'Driscoll for Fremantle, one of their best players, has one of the weirdest ball drops in the league, but her disposal rate's gone up, so she can keep kicking them weird as much as she wants to, because she is a gem to see with ball in hand. And Madison Gay, another similar interceptor for Essendon. I think got third or fourth highest intercepts marks or something.
Mm-hmm.
Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that was one of her fortes. Steph Conway in the centre, excellent two-way runner for Brisbane. A bit shut down in the AFL Grand Final, W Grand Final, but otherwise a very great year for her. Ash Riddell, probably the second best player in the comp. Um, Absolutely feasting on the inside midfielder, great tackling pressure, absolute gem of a player in one of the most stacked teams in the probably we'll see for a while in the AFLW.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got Ella Roberts on the other end, who is a young up and coming star for the West Coast Eagles. She's on the wing, but she can play forward. She's a great mark as well, kicks a few goals. And, as I said, the way that wings sort of work in the AFLW, they also are good at it's you often see the wingers are goalkeepers because they have one-on-one matchups. They float forward when the ball's coming the other way, and they get a bit of space, you know, up higher compared to the deeper forwards that they can also target.
Mm-hmm.
In the ruck, we have Mim Strong for Fremantle. She was absolutely a beast in the ruck. She got so many disposals, great tackling pressure, good disposals. And yeah, the only downside is that another up and coming ruckman for Port Adelaide, Matilda Schultz, couldn't get a spot despite her absolutely fantastic year. But I will say, like, having two very quality ruck battle it out, sort of similar to how the AFL men's went, where we saw Max Gawn go head-to-head with Tristan Sherry for the honours of best ruck in the competition.
Yes.
Pretty line bowl for both who you could go, but yeah. So yeah, Min won out in that one. Jasmine Garner gets the captaincy as well. Pretty good leader for the competition. Pretty good leader for North Melbourne. Pretty great tandem with Ash Riddell as well. Kicks a few goals as well. And the vice captain, following her, Ebony Marinoff, the best woman in the competition. Definitely absolute ball winner. I would want to say at least 10 of her games with 30 plus disposals. I can't say that for sure. I should look that up. But yeah, as I said, absolutely ridiculous amount of pill for her and great tackling. On the half forward, we've got Ash McCarthy or Ashling. Irish name, it's actually pronounced that way. It's funny because we also have Ashling Maloney, who is spelled Aish as well. So, yeah, that's Irish spelling for you. But in terms of McCarthy, been a great ball winner, can move forward, kick goals. Again, AFL tradition to put basically midfielder in the half forward line. So we see the AFL list makers still going strong there, but still an absolutely great season for her. And Ash Maloney, absolutely fantastic goal kicker for Geelong. Honestly, they wouldn't have had that finals push if it wasn't for her. Won games off her own boot at times. And Eileen Gilroy, one of the best small forwards in the competition for Hawthorn, who were one of the best offensively based teams. Caitlin Gould, one of the best marks in the competition, tall forward, kicked a lot of goals as well. And Taylor Smith, sort of the tandem pair, a bit less contested mark, a bit more goals by memory. So, yeah, I think she won the most goals in the year medal, whatever it's called in the women's. Call it Norms. No, what am I calling it?
Men's, it's the Coleman. I don't know what it's called in women's, but
we'll call it the Cole Women medal. And then we go Chelsea Randall, another fantastic midfielder / halfback for Adelaide. Charlie Rowbottom, like her brother, tackling machine, also gets a lot of the pill. Elise O'Loughlin, great small forward for North Melbourne, probably one of the best in the comps. Ali Anderson, another ball winning forward presenting player for Brisbane, sort of half forward, sometimes midfield. And then Belle Dawes, who I'm pretty sure is off the halfback for Brisbane. And in total, that is 4 Adelaide club members, 4 Brisbane, 3 North, 3 for Fremantle, 2 for Hawthorn, 1 for Essendon, 1 for Geelong, 1 for Gold Coast, 1 for Sydney, and 1 for West Coast.
That is pretty split across the board, actually, which is very good for the AFLW.
Yeah. Well, it is. Obviously, it's so hard because, you have 3 very established clubs. 2 of the old guard being Brisbane and Adelaide, and then obviously North Melbourne, Hawthorn as well, I guess. As I said, despite a disappointing final series, we're a pretty tight-knit regular season team. So a few other players got to be there. But yeah, as I said, it was really, really tight in positioning because the other award winner, and we'll touch on a bit later, being the women's best and fairest, not quite called the Brownlow. But the polling for that was interesting because there were 5 players it consisted of the top 5. 3 of them didn't end up in this All Australian list, and I'm going to look up who it was because I've completely forgotten. But so someone you alluded to earlier, Conti from Richmond didn't make it. Georgie Prasparkas, again, with a glut of midfielders, very hard to break in. Same with this other person, Nan Skuen. Georgie Prasparkas being the one from Geelong, not the one from Essendon, and Nan Skuen being the Essendon player. All very tough, making it, but not making it in. It just goes to show the absolute depth of midfielders. As you can tell in like a youngish competition still, A lot of the best players tend to find their way in the midfield, so really stacked there. So no shame in those players for missing out, but
No,
it is
absolutely not.
sort of ridiculous that they made it. But again, also hard for North Melbourne when they have two of the best, but one's taking votes off the others. Same with Marinoff versus Randall. So it's a bit of not crabs in a bucket, but you know what I mean there. So
Yeah,
I'd explain
yeah.
some of the weirdness of that. But yeah, these players deserve a shout out as well because they had absolutely fantastic seasons.
Just touching back on the All Australian, this is Ebony Marinoff's seventh All Australian Blazer. Same with North Melbourne midfielder Jasmine Garner. They're both one behind Emma Kearney's all-time record of 8 All Australian Blazers for the AFLW. As we mentioned, Garner and Marinoff are captain and vice captain, respectively. This year's All Australian features 12 debutantes and 3 Irish players, which is insanely massive because it's not very common at all in the men's team. Normally, it's like maybe 1 at the most.
Yeah, I'm not
And normally
actually
that
sure.
was Zach Tui.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's ever been multiple. That'll be an interesting stat, but funnily enough, they're all on the same line. I'll give you a guess which line that is, Blazy. I'll give
Well,
you a hint.
I have the wording already right in front of me, so it's the half forward line for note. With
Yeah, exactly.
McCarthy,
The
Maloney,
AI
and
line,
Gilroy.
as I said, like when they say we're living in the AI era, I think this is what they clearly meant.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely. That's just
so yeah.
that's a funny coincidence. Like in all honesty.
Yeah, it is actually. In terms of the forward, though, not that surprising. Obviously, Gaelic football, one of the biggest, uh, parallels to that is being speedy and being creative, especially when, still in the, I mean, it's weird to say AFLW still in its infancy era, considering that it's been 10 years. But it really is, still. But yeah, territory is still a major component of it. And yeah, as I said, playing for territory is a big thing in Gaelic football as well, considering you can only take 1 bounce. So yeah, it sort of, it makes sense that some of the game plan is similar, and it is great that they have transferred all of their skills into the women's competition in the AFL.
Absolutely. And just a quick note on age ranges. Ella Roberts is the youngest member of this All Australian side at 19,
19, yeah.
whilst Randall is at 33 and is the oldest player in this All Australian side.
Really? Is it Randall?
Yep.
Okay.
According to the article, it's Randall. That's all I'm
Yeah, I
following.
thought it was Jazz Gardner, but it might just be month of the year sort of thing.
Possibly.
Yeah.
But yes.
Anyway,
Congratulations to all the ladies that were selected for the All Australian team. Congratulations to, as we touched on before, Ebony Marinoff for winning the AFLW Best and Fairest. As I displayed just before, she polled 23 votes to take out the victory, with Ashradale getting 20, Chris Barkis getting 18, Emily Bates at 17, tied with Monique Conti, and Georgia Nanskiawan as well, both at 17.
hey, I didn't mention that. Bates also didn't make the All Australian, which again goes to show how stacked it was in terms of the midfield. But
Yeah,
here we be.
I'm just looking at the polling. It's pretty insane how split it was across the board.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when you have when you realize some of these teams are going to face each other in only a 10-game season, a lot of those head-to-head matchups would have dictated a few votes and who won that. And considering Adelaide didn't always win, I mean, the fact that, North didn't drop a game, as I said, the worst they got was a draw. It was pretty amazing to see them so split. But, also see a lot of the players up there. And then, for all the others, there were not many. It was like what? I think it was 5 games dropped between the top 4. Might have been less actually. Hawthorn lost 1.
Something like that. Yeah, it was extremely close on the top 4.
Yeah. Okay, so all up, the top 4 lost 5 games. top 5 lost 8 games. So Fremantle also with the 3. So yeah, it's as I said, very top heavy competition. But there was some cream that rose to it, and we congratulate whether it was the first time or a lot of these players made it before. We congratulate all of them, and yeah.
Absolutely. All right, next on the agenda is a big one. It's what the episode is titled about, the AFLW Grand Final. And yeah, let's look at the scoreline first, shall we? It's kind of says it
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. So obviously a bit of redemption from last year for North Melbourne. Out from the gate, they absolutely dominated this game. I know it was only a 2-goal lead at quarter time, but it really felt like a lot more than that. North Melbourne won 6-3, 39 to 139, holding one of the highest scoring teams to their lowest ever score. And I'm pretty sure that's the lowest ever in team history. Is absolutely insane. In a grand final, nevertheless. And, I think in the first quarter, what was really disheartening is because we've seen sometimes where like teams have come out really flat. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like they're doing nothing right, they're not getting the ball, they're just getting absolutely spanked. And they can come back because, it's like, yeah, we're doing nothing right, but we have potential to come back, whatever, the flip switch. The flip switches, so to speak. But this isn't actually the case for Brisbane. Like Brisbane, to their credit, did get a bit of hands on the ball in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
But North did absolutely everything to make sure that anything they did was rendered absolutely ineffective. There were a lot of turnovers. I think, I'll have a look at the stats, but I think the intercept game was so ridiculously one-sided. Intercept mark, sorry, I should say. I can't find it.
It
I'll
should
come
be
back to that.
in team stats, I would assume.
Yeah, anyway, I'll come back to it. Yeah. But yeah, as I said, North Melbourne were absolutely able to intercept the ball, and instead of Brisbane, who made a few inside 50s, North were so absolutely ruthless when they went inside their forward 50,
Mm-hmm.
and then it absolutely demoralized Brisbane. The first goal scorer, Tess Craven, as I mentioned before, like Ella Roberts, coming in from the wing, very clever, absolutely open in space, and it was one of the least pressure first goals you'll probably see in a grand final. In terms of, it was absolutely a clinical play. They didn't have to scrap for it. It was just sort of given to them. And then Alice O'Loughlin, mentioned in that All Australian team, 2 goals in the first half. Ella Hampson, the only one to get a goal for Brisbane in that first. And as I said, after that, it was pretty much all over. Vicky Wall gets a couple of goals as a small forward. And, Alice O'Loughlin finishes with 3. And, it was pretty much... There were so many Brisbane Lion players, especially in that forward line, that was sort of held very quiet. We're talking about the Sparix. We're talking about Sophie Conway.
Mm-hmm.
She had a very quiet game, unfortunately. As well as Dakota Davidson, Taylor Smith as well. Taylor Smith obviously being in that All Australian team, Dakota Davidson being the next best forward for Brisbane. 4 disposals all up, 2 each. It was so quiet. Ruby Sparek, as I said, also got 3. So that was just a forward line that was absolutely shut out.
Mm-hmm.
In terms for Brisbane, for North Melbourne, Jazz Garner, Norm Smith medalist for the Kangaroos, had an absolute field day out there. 35 disposals, 13 tackles, 10 clearances, 1 goal assist. She was absolutely phenomenal. I've never really... I know, like, it's so weird because I know North Melbourne have, like, a really strong midfield, but I've never really seen them dispatch like another really strong midfield with so much ease. Ash Riddell also joining in there with 29 disposals, 4 clearances, 7 tackles. Also very strong performance. Emma Kearney, who we mentioned before, off centre half back, 23 disposals, was fantastic back there. Also early on, Ruby Tribodi, I thought was pretty good, as well as what was I going to say? The player that kicked the first goal before, Tess Craven. And one of the most important thing about that early on is that Tess Craven were working really hard, and it was a shutdown on both sides because in terms of game style, North Melbourne had clear disposal dominance. Sorry, had clear restriction dominance on the inside. But it was off the ball as well that was so amazing because, you know, like most teams, you don't want to just dump the ball. But if you are getting hammered in the inside contest, it may mean that they've got players that, you know, they may have one extra player. So kicking long is actually more advantageous. You're probably going to go towards looser matchups. But this was not the case. As I said, Tess Craven on the outside, wasn't letting anything. You know, as I said, had Courtney Hodder absolutely shut down. And as well as the back line, all very fantastic, led by the one and only Libby Birch, who we'll let you mention the stat because you brought it up. I did know it, but
did I bring it up?
A very accomplished woman. I thought you did. Anyway, she's a free club champion now.
Oh, that's that. I completely forgot I mentioned that earlier. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
she is the first player in the AFLW and possibly in the men's team in the men's league as well. So possibly overall in the AFL. I can't confirm for the men's league, but one of the first ever players to win 3 premierships at 3 different clubs, which is pretty crazy. And, like, granted, you know, the AFLW is, you know, still quite young, so there's still miles and miles of distance to cover when it comes to you know, clubs doing different things at different times in the future. But to have a player already move to 3 different clubs and prove her worth at 3 different clubs is absolutely incredible.
And as well, just gets to stay in Melbourne all the time. Like, I must admit, I hate it personally. Well, actually, no. If there is a Melbourne Premiership, it's always had Libby Birch because the rest have been non-Victorian. So she won it with the Western Bulldogs in 2017, the Melbourne Demons in 2021. Sorry, Bulldogs of 2018, I think. And obviously this year with North Melbourne. And the biggest thing as well is that, you know, North Melbourne, I mention a lot, and I won't mention it too much because I think the women just deserve the absolute credit for their personal efforts. But she wasn't always going to go to North. Well, she was signed on with Melbourne. Melbourne sort of moving on. I don't know whether they thought she was too old or what it was, but yeah, considering she's just such a great part of that defense. Hawthorn wanted her. North Melbourne were willing to pay her a bit more. So went to North. And I think, as you can see, like as I said, just absolutely shut down Brisbane's forward line. It was pretty much insane to see. So yeah. What else was I going to say?
Brief shout out to their North Melbourne's coach, Darren Crocker, who was a former premiership player for North Melbourne as well, bringing home his own little bit of silverware for the club.
Yeah, exactly. So pretty much have a player that's, you know, won and coached for their own club. We mentioned that Starcevic also has done it. So it was pretty cool to see both of them accomplish that as well, you know. And yeah. And yeah, the other person I want to mention was Sarah Wright, who absolutely dominated with the intercepts. 9 intercepts, a lot of good markings, and 20 disposals altogether. I will say for Brisbane Lions, there was a couple of players that still deserve a shout out. Ali Anderson is the biggest one. She was trying very hard. 6 clearances, 14 tackles, 25 disposals, never gave up, even though it was very much up against her. And I think in the back pocket / wing, Orla O'Dwyer tried her hardest, rebounding out of defense. Yeah, she blazed it long a lot of the time. She didn't have much options, but 22 disposals, 3 tackles, and 469 meters gained. It was so much of a spanking that I can't really name too many other players that really stood out. I thought those were the main two. It was just, I've never really seen such a quality team dominated so easily. Like, I know the other grand final where Brisbane won, that was pretty comprehensive, but I would almost argue that this was a bit more. Like, this was just pure tactics, well, actually both were too.
I don't know. I
know.
mean, I can give you a grand final. That was an extremely comprehensive win.
Oh, I know that, but you know what I mean? Where, like, GWS were an upstart young team. Adelaide, probably you can make an argument for.
Oh no,
as I
Adelaide
said,
wasn't a comprehensive win. They had us in the first half.
yeah,
I was mostly referring to GWS.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, as I said, but you know what? Shout out to Jasmine Ferguson and Nicole Brescianen, because as much as the forwards were good, I think that back line was what won it for them. So I mentioned those two players before. I go to the stats. What was the overall stats?
And just
So,
just to briefly interject, sorry, I did actually find the Libby Birch fact, and yes, she is the first player, male or female, to win a premiership at 3 different clubs.
yeah,
Officially confirmed, which is again insane.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely pretty much a it's pretty good because she's still very young, so it's not like this is an old veteran. She's still got a lot of good years left, and she's proven she can be one of the best. So yeah, but the big numbers that really spoke to this game, the intercepts weren't the one that was very lopsided. That was about even. But what was lopsided was the clangers. North Melbourne, 47 clangers. Brisbane Lions, 72. So, as I mentioned, North Melbourne's pressure forced a lot of very bad handballs because that's how Brisbane felt like they needed to move the ball. And when that wasn't working, they moved to kicking it long, which, as I said, just led to so many more intercepts. The tackle count as well. Even though Brisbane won it, the fact that North Melbourne, disposal wise, had 100 more disposals, the tackle count was 75 to 86. So that's still a lot of tackling pressure done by North Melbourne. So it's absolutely fantastic there. They won the contested possessions. They won clearly the uncontested possessions. Like some of the stuff North Melbourne were able to do on the outside, their ball movement was absolutely fantastic. And they obviously cleaned up the inside 50s, 37 to 20.
Yeah, it's the stats do actually tell a lot of the story, which is sometimes normally stats just give us like a 50-50 and then like you actually watch the game and you see the story unfold. But the stats in a lot of this case really do tell like a lot of the major story that happened.
And the sad thing for Brisbane is there's not much junk time even. You know what I mean? Like the last goal that they scored was in the first quarter. They went 3 goalless quarters after the first. So yeah, it was pretty tough. In fact, 2 scoreless. Oh, sorry, no, wait. Never mind, I misread that. Yeah. No, it was just a scoreless last quarter as well. So it was pretty tough. But North Melbourne, 1 draw, but apart from that, pretty much undefeated in terms of as good a season in terms of dominance you'll ever see. It's got to be right up there. Obviously, the Baby Bombers is what everyone thinks about with the 1 loss for them. But this is pretty ridiculous. As I said, 300%. You hope that there's some equalization. Again, I'm not going to talk about it too much. Maybe that'll be next year's. Hopefully, North of them won't just be able to retain all their talent. Some of it gets a bit spread out. But for a lot of them, they deserve a lot of credit for how well they've gelled together and how well they've been coached. Because this isn't just a bunch of stars coming together. Like, this is clinical coaching as well. And absolute credit to Darren Crocker.
Absolutely.
Not only was it so clinical, it was probably a good sign that AFL is shifting away from just a territory dominated game. You can plan for that. Sure, it might stay a bit defensive. There are some exciting teams with ball movement, but in terms of the AFLW, I think we can definitely say that the Kangaroos are the new standard of football, just like Brisbane and Adelaide have been for the last whole existence of the AFLW.
Well, yeah, they, as we say in the men's, they go from being the hunters to being the hunted. So other teams are now going to try and either mimic their style or figure out how to either improve upon it or figure out how to beat it.
Yeah, I will say, I think there are teams that are similar styles to Kangaroos in terms of their approach to ball movement.
Mm-hmm.
It's just they don't quite have the talent in their list to pull it off. Which, as I said, when I'm considering teams like Port Adelaide on that list, who I think, did a very good job, have a lot of talent, that's just like a clear step up from even that.
Yeah.
But other teams I'm talking about being West Coast, or maybe even Essendon, Hawthorn, there's another club I want to put in there. Anyway, it might come back to me. But yeah, so it's good to see a few fast-moving ball clubs, especially some of the later teams to get introduced to the competition. Starting on a good game plan, providing a bit more varied experience in the watching week in, week out.
Mm-hmm.
And, as I said, I would like a bit more evenness in the competition for next season. It is an absolute, it felt like you were watching a greatness that you just can't take for granted because, injuries can happen, whatever, but no matter what happens from North Melbourne, they'll always have the 2024 season.
Absolutely.
That's something that every player should be proud of. And, introduces a new premiership winner as well.
Yeah, this is the first time North have won it, and they're also the first expansion club to have won it.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. No, you're right.
Hey, at least according to the article, they are. I'm assuming it's fact.
Okay, cool. You're reading it from the article. Okay, I thought you might have got that off your head.
No, I did see it in the article.
Okay, yeah.
Whilst we're still on the subject of the grand final, let's talk about the grand final MVP, or best on ground medal voting. With Jasmine Garner having won it on Saturday night. Again, we've already talked about the stats and her insane performance. But if I can find it in the article, there should be some voting numbers somewhere. Okay, apparently oh no, I found them. Okay, so the full votes overall for there are 4 voters, being Kate McCarthy, who's from Channel 7, Sarah Black from AFL Media, Ed Burke from Newswire, and Jess Webster from Fox Footy. They were the 4, overseers of the voting 4 members of the voting panel. There we go. For the AFLW Grand Final, and they split up their votes as such. Kate McCarthy gave 3 votes to Garner, 2 to Kearney, and 1 to Ash Riddell. Sarah Black went 3 to Garner, 2 to Riddell, 1 to Kearney. Ed Burke went 3 to Kearney, 2 to Garner, 1 to Ellis O'Loughlin, and Jess Webster went 3 to Garner, 2 to Kearney, and 1 to Ash Riddell. So there's very much a trend in which players stood out to them the most. Obviously, Jasmine Garner getting getting 11 votes out of the maximum of 12. Kearney getting 8, Ash Riddell getting 4, and Ellis O'Loughlin getting 1.
Yeah, it's pretty harsh because, as I said, Riddell would be pretty remiss to miss out with 29 disposals. But honestly, I actually think that I actually rated Ellis O'Loughlin's game. When you see the quality of her goals inside 50 early on, when the game was still in the balance, and the pressure that they were able to put on the Brisbane players, 8 tackles for her. I thought she had a really good game. I would have given her a vote over Riddell, but as I said, those 4 players were absolutely fantastic. I don't think I mentioned O'Loughlin before, did I? Either way,
You might have, but I don't know.
yeah, I think I did actually. But yeah, absolutely fantastic. And yeah, as I said, absolutely deserved every player. There was no surprise votes, no weird ones. But yeah, as I said, 4 really, really solid players. But you know what I mean? Like Alyssa Lachlan, I think, was she a first round pick? I can't remember. But
That
yeah.
that is up
Oh,
to you
sorry,
to
a number
find.
1 pick.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Possibly.
I think she was. Anyway, so it's a mixture of talent they're able to get, talent that they've grown, and talent that they've drafted. In that, which was what my point was. I'm pretty sure she was drafted. Anyway, you know what? Uh, ba- 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 ba. Say, ba- ba- ba. Yeah. The- where
Find
is
it?
it? Anyway, no. Oh, draft other. Oh, I think she was one of the people. The draft outside of the draft.
Okay.
For the expansion.
That makes
Anyway,
sense. Anyway,
but yeah,
but yes, congratulations to North Melbourne. Congratulations to Jasmine Garner. Congratulations to I'm blanking on names right now. To Ebony Marinoff. Congratulations to the entire AFLW for a brilliant season. Looking very much looking to be in a very good position to continue to grow the game and improve in 2025. And you have gained yourself another fan because I'm certainly more interested now that we've talked a lot more about it.
yeah. And I will say it did sell up Princess Park / Icon Park, which was about, I think, 13,000, or is it 19? I can't remember. It was just under 20,000 people there. So
Fair enough.
yeah, pretty.
Whilst we
Unfortunately,
have,
Icon a tiny bit reduced capacity.
unfortunate, but
At the moment. Yeah.
it is what it is. Whilst we have
Just
a bit of
going to host
time,
grand finals in Melbourne. That's my
yeah,
takeaway.
I mean they could have hosted it at Marvel to be fair, but they weren't going to do
There
that.
was bike racing.
Yeah, but
I can have.
the AFLW
I
is more
know.
important.
I mean, I think so.
Whilst we have a little bit of time, do we want to touch on the most recent Suns news that we were talking about before we started?
Yes. We'll have a quick talk about it. This is AFLW news. Obviously, now it's the end of the season. Some off-season stuff's happening, but it's pretty surprising after a pretty disappointing season for the Suns, who looked very promising. Had a grand final. Sorry, not grand final. A finals appearance last year, second in their history. But yeah, they're in everything. Their coach, which I've lost the article, so I need to
I
relook
have
that
it.
up.
I can send it to you.
Cool.
Give us 1 second.
Yeah, sorry about this.
There we go. So essentially, Cam Joyce is the name that you are looking for.
Yes.
Cam
Joyce
gets
gets sacked. Parted ways. It was a sacking. Yeah. So the team only won 1 game for the year. It was very disappointing since they made the finals last year. And, yeah, it was after a review of the internal program, the women's club. So this was sort of a suggested move, I guess. So he has an overall record of 15, 23, and 3 in charge of his 4 seasons. I'm pretty sure he was the inaugural coach as well. So, it was a very mixed bag. But the real big news to come from this is apparently their captain wants a trade out as well. So Tara Bohanna is weighing up going to another club. So this could be a very, very interesting period for them. It's one thing that, probably wouldn't mention it, but again, unfortunately with the Gold Coast Suns, probably one of the more tentative franchises in the AFL. And, their women's team were looking off to a good start. So it's going to be interesting. On the flip side, they're targeting one of the Melbourne players, to make up for this. So I don't know if that's just news that they're targeting to make him look like they're going to be really contendering.
Well,
Lily Mithen is the player
oh
I
yeah.
should mention.
Well, the trade
Um,
period for the AFLW starts this Thursday,
mm,
the 5th of December, and then the official AFLW Women's Draft is on the 16th of December. So in just a couple weeks.
yeah, exactly. So I just thought that was interesting because as I said, it's very hard it's very disheartening to see this. Um, when the Suns are looking to rebrand. And I know, a lot of it's, the men's competition and all that, but I think we'll see going forwards, like a lot of the really successful clubs, both programs will at least be, not contenders, but you know what I mean? Like pretty even, you should see similar levels, not so much, with the draft and all that, but in terms of, you know, um, getting in players, you should see that at roughly the same rate in the competitions. And if it's not, something might be going a bit awry in one of them. So
Well,
we'll see how that is with the
the
Suns.
best club to currently look at and kind of mold that idea from is Hawthorn, because both both the men's and women's teams performed exceptionally well, pretty much to the exact same standard across the board.
Yeah. Well, I said even in long term Brisbane, but Hawthorn is a bit of a unique case because obviously it's an expansion club that did take the reins a lot faster than some of the others. Again, like the Kangaroos, a bit blessed when it came to the players that they were able to pick up.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, being the Melbourne sides, when they were able to pinch players, they had a few more to choose from. As we in the industry call it, hashtag Vic bias. But as I said, there's nothing that they could really do. And you've got to pair that up with really good organizational skills because, we've seen plenty of times where picked up talent, draft picks have all been wasted. You don't pick for your club or you don't build around it. You just expect players to do the building for you.
Mm-hmm.
But the Kangaroos have more than shown that they are well deserved. They are the best. You couldn't imagine talent being utilized any better than what the Kangaroos have been able to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, as we've seen through like articles during the week, the strength and adversity. I wouldn't say adversity because considering they had an undefeated season, but like
Mm.
what the North Melbourne girls have been able to do has really inspired the men's team. At least from the players that have been like from the men's team that have spoken to media
Yeah.
about the women's team, like they feel really inspired, and hopefully it kind of spreads throughout that entire side, and maybe we'll see a lot more out of that men's side next season.
Yeah. And so you said adversity, that just rang a bell for me. Emma Kearney, a very brave performance going off that sore hamstring. She was out for most of the later part of the season. 2 games in the prelim final and the grand final, able to do absolutely fantastic. So, those are the sort of heart and soul players and performances that you really build a team around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Emma Kearney also getting a double premiership as well because she was a part of the Bulldogs team that won that premiership. That's where she came from.
Ah, yes.
So, yeah.
Fair enough then. Fair enough. Well, again, congratulations to the North Melbourne girls. Congratulations again to Ebony Marinoff for winning the women's Brownlow or whatever it's called. Congratulations to all the girls for getting into the All Australian. Unfortunate for Cam Joyce at the Gold Coast Suns, but I'm sure the Gold Coast Suns know what they're doing. Maybe.
Yeah.
And
congratulations to Brisbane because it really was a great season.
Yes, it was.
That just made a lot worse than it actually was by getting spanked by some absolute talent.
Yeah, the scoreline is extremely unfortunate, but if you look past that blemish, they had a pretty phenomenal season themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think there's much else for us to touch on, so we might call it here for a shorter episode of this week's podcast. If you've got nothing else,
yeah.
So yeah, we may call it there for this week. Just a shorter episode, but next week we will do a finale to 2024, looking back upon the past season, both men's and women's, touching on the highs and the lows, and maybe a brief preview as to see what 2025 has to offer in terms of things maybe we haven't touched upon yet, or just things we're looking forward to. But until then, thank you all so much. I'm still streaming, hopefully 3 days a week on my Twitch channel at BlazeNinjaTV. So please keep up to date on my socials as to when I'm live. Usually it's on my Instagram for the most part. I kind of stopped using Twitter because obvious reasons, if you're not already aware.
Yeah.
I'm still, working hard as per normal. But yeah, if you want to see me stream or do a bunch of other stuff, it's all usually on my Instagram. So please go check that out. Sarek, you're doing your own stuff normally on other people's Twitches.
Yeah, normally. Look, if you follow me enough, you know where I normally lie. It's a very different interest, I guess.
It is.
But yeah, other than that, I don't do that much. So if you ever just want to hit me up, I'm probably free.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much the same. Like, I'm trying to dip my toe into some other stuff. But, if you want to talk about the AFL, please feel free to send us a DM or just add us. Or if you know us personally already, just we're here to chat. We love to talk about our footy, don't we?
Yeah, and exactly. And again, during this off season, we'll probably talk about a bit more about other things, especially after next week. Yeah, as I said, we'll probably just do a few more lighter ones before dipping into some grittier preseason analysis.
Absolutely. We'll probably talk about it next week, but we may do an episode on the cricket or something, just for something different in January, just to maybe fill the air, fill the content. But we'll see. We don't know yet.
Oh, the summer sports wrap up probably.
Yeah.
There's other sport codes I follow. I'll probably briefly talk about some of the ridiculousness that happens from that.
Yeah, we can.
And then you can bring up anything.
It'll mostly be cricket for me,
to
be honest, because I'll probably just have it on in the background at some point whilst I'm doing other stuff.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And hopefully it won't be reporting about how India absolutely thrashed us up 5-0.
Hopefully not. Hopefully the
Hopefully not.
The Aussie boys actually decide to show up and put on a good game, especially for the Boxing Day test. As that's kind of the big standout one for the summer season.
Yeah.
But yes, thank you all so much for coming and hang out with us for episode 39. Again, check out our socials. Stay tuned for episode 40. We will do our full 2024 wrap up, and hopefully we will see you all next week. Until then, goodbye for now.